When it comes to the paradigm, I don't believe that there's one. I think there's actually been two paradigms, which this theory, if it's true, I believe would explain all the inconsistencies that we've had with that character over the last 3.5 years. So back in Fortnite Chapter 1, Season X, the visitor leaves us a recording. He starts it off with,
"What the 7 of us are attempting is very risky."
What he was explaining in those tapes is that he and 6 of his other friends were going to try to restabilize the 0 point. And to do so, they were going to basically have to enter it. When you go back and look at the original live event, there were 7 rockets that went through the 0 point to restabilize it, right? Why is this important? I think it was 2 seasons before that, so Chapter 1, Season 8, we had the Monster versus Mech event. The mech was built by a character by the name of Singularity, okay? Singularity was a character that was very important to Donald Mustard. He actually had a video talking about her.
So here's all the issues, and you'll notice that on issue number 5, I drew who you guys know one of her names as, the Singularity. This is a super important character, and I can't wait for you to see a bunch of the cool stuff that will be happening with her over the next couple of years.
This is way before Chapter 3 and Chapter 2. Later on, the Paradigm skin gets released in the item shop. And I remember me personally at the time thinking, like, I'm not buying that stupid ass skin. It's just a reskin of a character that I already have from the battle pass, because we had Singularity. Also, Singularity was teased back in Chapter 1, Season 7 during the event there, because her helmet was on a desk inside of the 0 point. Why is that? We don't know. The presiding theory is that she used to work for the Imagined Order. That's not important to this theory. But here's the point. At the time, in Chapter 1, Season X, because of that loading screen, because of the loading screen with Singularity looking over the creation of the mech being in her colors, as well as what Donald Mustard had said in that video, everybody had thought that Singularity, and also the similarities between her suit and the Paradigm suit, everybody thought that Singularity was the Paradigm. That was until Zero War put a wrench in the system. And I believe this was Zero War, God, I think it was Zero War issue 3. Wow, Zero War issue 3 was like the best issue. It had all the juicy lore shit. Anyway, the start of Zero War issue 3, we find out that the Paradigm was actually on the Ice Moon inside the mech from the end of Chapter 1, Season X to Chapter 3, Season 2. So for basically almost 2 complete chapters, the Paradigm was in stasis on the Ice Moon inside of a wrecked mech. But here's the problem with that. If the Paradigm was on the Ice Moon, how the hell did she pilot the rocket back in Chapter 1, Season X? It didn't make any sense. And so it always felt like this major plot hole that was there, right? Then we get Chapter 3, Season 4. When we got the new Paradigm skin in Chapter 3, it said Paradigm, but reality 619 or 617 or 669 something. Reality 659. Thank you, chat. You're so smart. You get a round of applause because you're awesome. Okay, that's enough. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, we got a new Paradigm skin, Chapter 3, Season 4. It said Paradigm Reality 659. And at the time, we were all like, what the fuck? Why is it? What's the significance of 659? That doesn't make any sense. Right? Whatever. Fine. We left it alone. No explanation, no answer. Plus the plot hole of her being on the Ice Moon, even though there were 7 rockets that went up into the black hole. Like, no explanation for it, right? Then we get to Fortnite Chapter 6. And then we get OG. And then the idea of the time loop starts popping up in my head. Then I start to think more about Paradigm. Because she's going to be, or I started thinking about Paradigm, but also I more so start thinking about Singularity. Because Singularity is going to be she's going to be coming up soon. Her character's going to be coming up soon. She's going to be very important. Then I'm thinking the idea of this time loop and things being cyclical and how important Singularity is to the plot. And then I realized something. Singularity could have been the first Paradigm. The Paradigm that we meet in Fortnite Chapter 3, Season 2, the one that piloted the new mech, she was probably the second Paradigm. If that's the case, it flushes out all those plot holes. The Paradigm, theoretically, could be a title, a mantle that's passed down, just like the title of Prime in Transformers. How Optimus Prime passes down the Matrix to the next person. It could be the case that if a member of the Seven dies or is MIA, someone else can take up the mantle of that character. So maybe I'm wrong with saying that Singularity was the first paradigm, even though that seemed to be the intention back when Donald Mustard was doing things. But for the sake of argument with what we know now, let's just say this. This is how I see the course of events going. Singularity was inside of the vault. She was guarding the 0 point, protecting the 0 point. The 0 point becomes corrupted, not to mention that we have the whole monster versus mech thing. The monsters come to the Fortnite island, the monster starts tearing up. Singularity is a fantastic architect, a fantastic engineer. She builds the mech. Maybe her original intention was to pilot the mech, but because she's such a valuable person, they send in a different character in her place instead. They send a different person in her place instead, which is the Brie Larson paradigm. They have her suit up. She's the official member of the Seven. Singularity is maybe someone that works closely with the Seven, but I have a feeling she may have ties to the Imagined Order, because you remember the Imagined Order had control of the bridge, which is where the 0 point was held. They had like direct access to the 0 point, and Singularity was watching it for some time. So it could be the case that maybe Singularity was working with the Imagined Order. Regardless, it could be the case that at this point in time, so Chapter 1, Season X, the Imagined Order and the Seven were working together. They had a vested interest in working together because the 0 point was unstable. The Seven got access to the 0 point through the Imagined Order, but the Imagined Order in general had other intentions. They probably wanted to get rid of the Seven because they realized the Seven were a threat. So even though they did go to restabilize the 0 point by sending the 7 rockets through, the Imagined Order probably was hoping that that would actually kill the 7 off. Rewinding back to the Monster vs. Mech event, Paradigm, the Brie Larson paradigm, piloted the mech, probably trained by Singularity, piloted the mech, fought off the monster, flew off to the Iceman for whatever reason, crash landed on there, was in stasis. When the 0 point was destabilizing, that's when the negotiation between the Imagined Order and the Seven happened, and they needed a 7th member. So the only logical thing to do was to bring on Singularity, make her the new paradigm, and have her pilot one of the rockets. Not to mention she was already technically sound and was able to assist the scientist with whatever calculations and everything he needed in order to make sure that the operation went smoothly. Which is why you have the original paradigm skin in the Fortnite item shop, which is why Donald Mustard implied that Singularity and the paradigm were the same person, because Singularity went by 2 names. That, chat, is the 2 paradigm theory. I don't know if I'm right when it comes to that, but to me, that theory makes the most sense. And I think over the course of Chapter 7, if the 7 are going to return, I don't necessarily think it's the Brie Larson paradigm that we're going to see. I think it might be the Singularity paradigm, which would also give us an excuse for them not to use Brie Larson anymore and have to pay her royalties or pay her as much money as they would a brand new up-and-coming voice actor to voice Singularity. And that might get explained away. That makes the most sense to me in terms of how all that shakes out.